You ever get that weird feeling? Like no matter how hard you work, some people are just playing a completely different game? Not a fairer game, not even a harder one, just different. Like you're grinding every day, school, job, side hustle, trying to move forward. And meanwhile, someone else's money is just growing on its own. No effort, no stress, just numbers going up. That thought bothered me for a long time. Because if hard work is supposed to be the answer, then why does it feel like it's not enough? And that's exactly where I stumbled into this idea from Thomas Piketty. At first, I thought, okay, another economist, probably overcomplicating things. But then I started digging into what he actually found. And honestly, it kind of flips the way you see money. So here's the thing. We're told this story growing up, right? Work hard, be disciplined, make smart choices. And eventually, you'll be successful. And yeah, that can happen. But what if that's only part of the picture? Because if you zoom out, like really zoom out, and look at history, it starts to look very different. A couple hundred years ago, especially in places like France or the United Kingdom, success wasn't about what you did. It was about what you were born into. That's it. If your family had land, money, assets, you were set. If not, you worked for those who did. No motivational speeches. No rise and grind. Just reality. Then things changed. Industrial revolution hits. Suddenly, people can build businesses, create wealth, move up. And for a while, it actually feels like the system is working. Like, okay, maybe this is fair now. Maybe effort really does pay off. But then the 20th century happens. Wars, chaos, destruction. World War I and World War II basically reset everything. Huge fortunes wiped out. Governments tax the rich heavily. And inequality drops. A lot. So people start believing something important. That the system kind of balances itself over time. Like, things might get uneven for a bit, but eventually, they level out. Nice idea, right? Comforting. But here's where it gets interesting. Because Piketty looked at that idea and went, okay, but is that actually true? Not just for a few decades, but across centuries. So instead of guessing, he went straight to the data. And I'm not talking about a few charts. I'm talking tax records, inheritance data, income stats, going back hundreds of years. Different countries, different systems, just raw history. And after years of digging through all of that, he noticed something, a pattern, one that kept showing up again and again. And weirdly enough, it all came down to this simple idea. Now don't let that scare you. It's actually super simple. R is basically how fast wealth grows when you already have money. Investments, assets, that kind of thing. G is how fast the economy grows overall, like salaries, income, stuff most people rely on. So when R is bigger than G, it means wealth grows faster than wages. And that's where things start to tilt. Think about it like this. Two people. One works for a living. The other owns assets. Let's say the worker's income grows at 3% a year. The investor's money grows at 7%. At first, it doesn't seem like a huge deal. But give it time. That gap gets bigger and bigger. And then it's not even close anymore. And here's the part that really hit me. It's not about who's working harder. It's not even about who's smarter. It's about what you own. Because ownership compounds. Effort doesn't. At least not in the same way. And once you see that, a lot of things start to make sense. Like why wealth seems to cluster at the top. Why the rich don't just stay rich, they get richer faster. Piketty basically showed that this isn't new. It's happened before. In the 1800s, inequality was extreme. Then wars disrupted it. But after the 1970s, that same pattern came back, especially in the United States. And in 2014, he puts all of this into a book, Capital in the 21st Century. And suddenly, everyone's talking about inequality again. Not as a feeling, but as a system. What he's really saying is this. Capitalism doesn't automatically spread wealth. It tends to concentrate it, unless something interrupts the cycle. And once wealth starts concentrating, it kind of feeds itself. More money, more influence, better opportunities, even more money. Loop keeps going. And if you let that run long enough, you end up in a world where inheritance matters more than effort again, which is kind of where we started. Now look at today. Seriously, just look around. People like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos. Their wealth doesn't just grow. It scales. Globally. And it's not just them. The top 1% holds a massive chunk of wealth. Meanwhile, a lot of people feel stuck. Working more, but not really getting ahead. And technology? It's made this even faster. Because now, capital isn't just physical stuff. It's digital. Apps, platforms, code. Build it once, and it can reach millions, even billions. So that little equation, R greater than G, it's not just theory anymore. It's playing out in real time. Now, to be fair, Piketty doesn't just point out the problem. He suggests a solution too. A global wealth tax, basically taxing accumulated wealth, not just income. In theory, it makes sense. If wealth naturally concentrates, you need something to balance it out. But in reality, it's complicated. Different countries, different interests. And the people with the most wealth usually have the most influence. So we're kind of stuck in this situation where we understand the pattern, but fixing it, that's a whole different challenge. So what does all of this mean for you? Like, practically? First, inequality isn't random. It's not just bad luck or bad choices. There's a structure behind it. Second, working hard is important, but it's not the whole game. Ownership matters. Assets matter. That's where things really start to shift. And third, history doesn't just disappear. It repeats, sometimes in slightly different forms. But the pattern is still there. And honestly, that's the part that stuck with me the most. Because once you see it, you can't really ignore it anymore. You start noticing it everywhere. Not in a hopeless way, but in a, okay, now I understand the rules a bit better kind of way. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Not that the system is broken, but that it has its own logic, its own direction. And if you understand that, you can start making smarter moves inside it. If this made you think a little differently about money and how it actually works, stick around. There's a lot more to unpack. And check the pinned comment. Because there's, first, inequality isn't random. It's not just bad luck or bad choices. There's a structure behind it. Second, working hard is important, but it's not the whole game. Ownership matters. Assets matter. That's where things really start to shift. And third, history doesn't just disappear. It repeats, sometimes in slightly different forms. But the pattern is still there. And honestly, that's the part that stuck with me the most. Because once you see it, you can't really ignore it anymore. You start noticing it everywhere. Not in a hopeless way, but in a, okay, now I understand the rules a bit better kind of way. And maybe that's the real takeaway. Not that the system is broken, but that it has its own logic, its own direction. And if you understand that, you can start making smarter moves inside it. If this made you think a little differently about money and how it actually works, stick around. There's a lot more to unpack. And check the pinned comment. Because there's something happening right now that connects directly to this. And it's kind of wild once you see it. Because the truth is, most people are playing the game, but very few actually understand it.